Hey, how's it going everyone? Here today with the latest S.H MonsterArts release, and that is Godzilla 2023. Well, from a movie Godzilla -1. So it's kind of similar to that of Shin Godzilla, where it was labelled as Godzilla 2016, based on the year that the movie came out, opposed to the movie title. Just in case you're a little bit confused about the naming for this release. Now the box itself is a beautiful white colouring that matches the movie poster, but in this case, instead of the actual Godzilla from the movie, we have the figure in its place, which is looking really nice. I've definitely been looking forward to this release, so super happy that it's come out. The movie did come out earlier this month on November 3rd during Godzilla Day, so I was surprised they didn't release it at the same time, but it wasn't too much longer to wait. Now on the back we have a nice G, or a Godzilla -1 logo with the G and -1 down here, with a little wee peek into the figure, which matches up with the movie posters, which I think is a really nice touch. And then we have a couple of images of the figure on the back. But anyway, let's just jump straight in and we can pop them out of the box. Now this is a very basic release with no accessories, so we just have the figure itself. So we can just go straight in. Okay. Let's get them out of this wrapping. Be careful of those spines, and we can chuck them on the turntable. Okay, so we have Godzilla -1 here on the turntable, and straight away I just want to highlight that the detailing in this one is looking really nice with the colours. Here's the deeper, darker greys for the undertone, with the lighter kind of sandy, muddy, clay type colouring for the highlights, which really does bring out the detail on the, not really just the main body, but definitely on the scales or the spine part of this figure. You'll probably notice it a lot more when it swings around, but all the detailing through here is coming through super clean and crisp. And also, actually, these are quite dangerous, very sharp, so do be careful when you open up and when handling this figure. Especially when you are trying to pose and articulate it, as you may, squish your finger or, stab yourself on one of the many sharp points. Another thing to highlight through here is all the colouring is stronger down towards the feet, kind of the elbows, and kind of on areas that you'd expect them to be rubbing more with the ground as he moves through the islands, or maybe getting onto shore, which is really cool. So far, yeah, I feel like the sculpting is looking really nice. A lot of the seams blend in really well. You can't really see the ones in the lower tail section. Same for the legs. And then again, on the upper body here, you do see them a little bit more, but it's not too bad. I feel like the sculpting for the head is looking quite clean, and it's looking pretty much to what I did see in shop. Though I did notice earlier when I was taking a photo with my phone, the head doesn't look as good in phone photos. I'm pretty sure it's just due to the compression and the scale which the phone images are taking a photo in, and then with the auto colour correction and so forth as well. Due to the dark colours with the lighter highlights, I think it is kind of throwing off the balance a little bit. So I feel like definitely the face, actually pretty similar to that of the recent Goku, where it looks a lot better in person compared to a phone photo. So hopefully this is coming through clear on camera. The teeth are looking overall pretty good, especially at a normal arm's length away, and same with the covering for the tongue. It's nice and shiny, and it's picking up the light wonderfully well. I did have a close look at the eyes earlier, and there is a little bit of detail and colour difference, so everything there was looking quite nice. So far I haven't really had anything design wise that has stuck out to me in person with them in hand as being weird or a bit dissatisfactory. I mean, we have the, not much to say about this one here. The head on this one here definitely was a bit disappointing, and whether you like it or not, the colouring for this one, it's a bit extreme. I haven't noticed anything like that for this release so far, and that has made me think, I wish it wasn't quite like that. So far everything is looking pretty damn good. So yeah, that's it for the aesthetic look. Definitely drop a comment below what you think so far. And for the design choices for this, the colouring, sculpting and so forth. But yeah, let's just jump into the articulation. and then we can wrap up with a final thoughts and a bit of a size comparison to some other figures at the end. So for the articulation, we'll start with the head. I felt like this one here was a lot harder to really articulate or move. It does have a couple of joints. I mean, the jaw will open really well, but the head itself, a few millimeters on either side, but it definitely is quite an oval shape, and then all the spikes do kind of hinder the motion a little bit, which was a little bit of a shame. You kind of have to grip and move around. So it does have range there, but it's just not as fluid as other releases. Moving down to the next joint, which is just above the shoulders there, or the upper chest, we do get a few millimeters of motion left and right. Going forward, maybe not so much. Definitely is a little bit harder. Yeah. Again, no real motion forward. It does move slightly, but it's more like about a millimeter either side for left and right. So moving over to the shoulder, we do get a nice range of motion going up and down, and you can swivel out by maybe 5 mil that way as well. So that way is really nice. We also have the bicep swivel, which is good. The wrist peg is overall pretty nice. It's pretty standard for a MonsterArts or a Godzilla release. The elbow is definitely a little bit more limited compared to the other points here. Due to the way the design works, the peg is on the inside here, so you are limited by the design when going down, but you do get, what's it, about 1 or 2 mil up. So a very minimal range of motion in the elbow, but the main point of articulation here is going to be the swivel and then the elbow joint. So with everything combined, you get a nice range. Just the elbow there is a little bit more lacking. And just for transparency's sake, at least on mine, the right shoulder is definitely a lot easier to pop out. So I'm not sure if it is by design or if the socket is just a little bit softer on mine. I mean, it comes in and out easily, so it's no issue, but I do just want to highlight that in case you have something similar where a joint, when articulating or when you pull it a bit, it will pop out. Disconnecting is generally by design, so we don't get breakages. So anything like this, it's no real issue, just slot it back in and it does hold its place really well. So now moving into the chest area, we do have a couple of points of articulation. Though due to the massive spines on the back, it can be a little bit more difficult to move, but we do get some left and right swivel. Going forward a few millimeters, going back, if we kind of line things up, he can, that's about as far as he can go, and then forward like so. So not a huge range of motion in the center area, but we do get the left and right swivel, which is quite nice. You do kind of have to move each part individually. The center, what's this? I guess the ring here is kind of loose and sandwiched between the two joints. So I'm sure maybe you can pop these off. If you really want to get more articulation, just take this out and it will give you some extra range if you wanted it for a photo or something along those lines. But generally speaking, you are a little bit more limited in that center range. But with those two joints combined, it's an okay range there, especially for what he kind of does in the movie and the type of motion that you are after. Now moving down to his legs, nice range of motion there, nice swivel. It is an oval though, so it will kind of spread out a little bit as well. But we can flare his legs in and out, spread them out really well actually. So the leg and arm range of motion has been really good so far. So next I want to also point out the feet. We're getting a nice swivel just underneath the shin. The actual knee range is very minimal, only a couple of mil there. But one thing that's really cool is he has toe articulation. So each one of these can move slightly. So each little movement kind of gives it a bit more of a natural look. So that is really cool. So I can go up and down, a little bit left and right, and a subtle swivel on them as well. So that is really cool to see. So you can play around with each of the toes and feet to get a really cool looking look for him. So one of my favourite parts of all MonsterArts is the tail, and again this one here has a nice range of motion which holds its place really well, though due to the extra long spines on this one, you will get into situations where if you try to swivel it may get hindered on one of the other spines, so you have to kind of stretch it out, swivel it around, and you can lift it back up. So that is just something to keep in mind when trying to pose this figure, but overall the joints feel really nice. and if your tail just pops off like so, and just slot it back in. And each one of these has its own point of articulation, so if you push it too far, generally it will just pop out of the socket to avoid breakages, which is quite nice. So just keep that in mind if you are playing with it. I do recommend hold these figures by the center torso. Don't kind of lift them up by any of the joints, you know, arms or tails. But yeah, so just be a bit more careful when you are holding and playing with S.H MonsterArts if you are new to the line. So before we jump into a bit of a size comparison with a couple of other figures, I do want to give another look at the head, and I feel like overall the teeth are looking nice. The definition of the white and red is looking good, and you can definitely see some shape to them. I know some people definitely love to pay close attention to these. I feel like in person, at least just through my eyes, they're looking fine, especially at a normal arm's length. Looking a little bit closer, maybe they could be a little bit more finely detailed, but again, a monster's not going to have super clean, crisp, you know, pearly white teeth anyway. So overall, I feel like it looks pretty good. Same with the face in general. I'm liking the colour and the highlights around the face there as well. So overall, pretty satisfied with that personally. Okay, so we have -1 in the center, Shin Godzilla on the left, and then was that 2019 on the right? Not 2019, 2021 was it? Well, GVK. Man, the years are flying by. So a bit of a size comparison. Obviously Shin is definitely a behemoth of a monster and figure. So he is the biggest of the three, with the -1 as a second place. I mean, the GVK one isn't too dissimilar. But he definitely is a lot more slender in comparison to the -1, who just has a lot more bulk throughout all of his body, and especially in those legs and tail all the way down to the tip. So yeah, let's move Shin out of the way for one moment. So I think overall, if you have this figure, just imagine a little more bulkier, and that's what you have with the new one. If you are new to the figure arts, sorry, if you're new to the S.H MonsterArts line, here goes the brand new S.H Figure Arts Goku for a size comparison to the other S.H Figure Arts line, which is your 1/12 scale figures. So overall, you know, they work out to be, you know, a similar height overall. So yeah, the MonsterArts, generally speaking, closest scale maybe 1/50th, 1/44 scale, give or take, but the figures themselves don't really follow one set standard throughout all the movies. They kind of just aim for around about this size, which I think is kind of perfect for display, or at least having on your desk. Okay, so that brings us to the pros and cons for this video, and overall with the pros, I feel like it's a beautiful looking figure from the colouring and detailing, and it does match up to what I have seen in the Tamashii showroom over the past few months, and just recently during the live stream at Tamashii Nation 2023. The colouring, the sculpting, the fact we get the toe articulation I think is really nice. The arm, you know, kind of a tail and kind of a leg area articulation, I think it's really nice. And overall I feel like the face is looking pretty good as well. Now for the cons for this release, it definitely is more pricey at about just under 15,000 yen. So I'm not sure what that was in the US, but I'm guessing about 140-ish. So definitely up there now, and I feel like that's probably going to be the norm with a lot of the figures from Japan, due to the way the yen and economy's been going over the last year or two since Corona. The center articulation is definitely a lot more limited, and around the neck I think a little bit more articulation there could have been nicer, and maybe a little bit more in the elbow. It's been a kind of a common complaint of mine for the MonsterArts line with a lot of releases where the articulation can be a little bit more limited. And again with this one here, when you kind of push it around to the extreme, you do get more gaps showing, which is a little bit of a shame, but you can always just straighten out the figure a little bit more to reduce those. Out of the box, I do feel like a couple of the spines are a little bit more bent and curved, and these are definitely sharp. So do be a little bit more careful there with this figure, and maybe I think it could be one of those figures, once you take it out of the packaging, it's best to leave out, because if you try to put it back in, maybe you won't have everything aligned correctly, which will put extra pressure on the spine. So that's something to be a little bit more careful of. But yeah, overall, in terms of the SH MonsterArts line, it's definitely one of my favourites. It could be the fact that I really enjoyed the movie. Now, if you haven't seen it yet, I highly recommend. I believe December 1st is when it's opening overseas for a lot of countries. Now, not every country is getting the movie, unfortunately. So when you do get the chance to watch it, definitely sit down and enjoy. I think it's a very fun movie, and Godzilla's pretty damn terrifying in it, which is awesome to see. So yeah, definitely drop a comment below what you think about this release. If you've seen the movie, please avoid any spoilers, just for those that haven't seen it yet. And I will be, hopefully, today's like a mini Christmas, lots of videos are coming out, so I'm not sure when I'll get around taking photos, but hopefully soon I will take some close-up ones with the camera and then post them on Insta, so keep an eye out for those. Yeah, but anyway, again, thank you very much for watching, and until next time, cheers!